Love after 60. 5 powerful things that instantly make men see you as his future wife. Welcome to Wise Life After 60. So grateful to have you here. Love after 60? It's not about butterflies or playing hard to get. It's about finally wanting something real, something steady, something you don't have to second guess. But here's the truth. Most women were never told, not in our 30s, and certainly not now. Men do not simply wake up one day and decide that they're the one. Whether they realize it or not, they begin to subconsciously categorize the women they date, sometimes from the very first impression. There are 3 categories. First, the woman for now is fun, exciting, but not someone he plans to build a future with. Then, the woman to avoid. Too much emotional weight, too much tension, and not enough ease. And finally, the woman for life. The one he respects, values, and quietly fears losing. If you don't know what makes a man see you as that third kind, his forever, you may spend years in relationships that were never meant to last. I've seen it happen again and again, even to the strongest women over 60. And that's why we need to talk. Because this isn't about playing games, manipulating emotions, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming who you truly are, a high-value woman grounded in self-worth, emotional peace, and senior wisdom that only comes from lived experience. So, if you're tired of guessing where you stand in a man's life, if you're done hoping he'll wake up one day and realize you're the one, I invite you to stay with me. Because in today's conversation, I'm going to share 5 powerful things that instantly make a man, the right man, see you as his future wife. And when you understand these truths, you won't have to chase love. You'll naturally attract the kind of man who knows exactly what he has in you and would never risk letting it go. Before we begin, if anything here resonates with you, I hope you'll subscribe to Wise Life After 60 and pass it along to another woman who might need it. We're walking this journey together. Let's begin with something I believe most women overlook, not because they don't have it, but because they don't yet realize how deeply it speaks to a man's heart. Thing number 1, unshakable self-respect. You can always feel it, the quiet power of a woman who knows her worth. She doesn't chase, she doesn't plead, and she doesn't confuse being needed with being valued. A woman with unshakable self-respect doesn't ask, "Am I enough?" She asks, "Is this relationship aligned with the peace I've built inside myself?" And when a woman carries herself like that, men notice, especially men who are emotionally mature and ready for something lasting. It's what separates the woman they date for convenience from the woman they choose for life. I remember watching an old friend of mine, Elaine, walk away from a man she genuinely cared for. They had been seeing each other for several months. He was charming, attentive, until he wasn't. Slowly, he started canceling plans last minute, going silent for days, making little jabs that chipped away at her self-esteem. The kind of behavior that keeps you guessing, keeps you off balance. But Elaine didn't spiral. She didn't beg for clarity. She didn't give long speeches about how she deserved better. One night, after another broken promise, she simply looked at him and said, "This isn't who I am. I don't cause confusion at this stage of my life." Then she wished him well and never looked back. I'll never forget what she told me afterward. She said, "It's not that I didn't want him. I just finally realized I wanted myself more. That moment taught me more about dating after 60 than any book or advice column ever could. Because when you truly respect yourself, you don't tolerate emotional crumbs. You don't hang around hoping someone will wake up and treat you right. You know what you bring, and if it's not received with care, you go. A high-value woman doesn't need to punish a man or make a scene. She simply honors her standards, and those standards speak louder than any argument ever could. To a man who's serious about love after 60, this kind of woman is unforgettable. He may meet others who are exciting or agreeable, but the one he cannot forget is the one who made him rise to the level of respect she held for herself. Because women over 60 who carry unshakable self-respect aren't harsh, they're just done proving. And that quiet dignity, that inner stillness, is something no man ever wants to lose once he's felt it. And yet, self-respect alone is not enough to build something lasting. What keeps a man close is what he feels when things get hard. That's where the next trait comes in. Thing number 2, emotional stability and maturity. Have you ever noticed how the most unforgettable people aren't the loudest in the room? They're the calmest. They listen before they speak. They don't need to win every argument. They give you space to be yourself, and in their presence, you somehow feel safer, softer, more at ease. That's the gift of emotional stability. And to a man who's lived long enough to know what chaos costs, it's the kind of peace he'll do anything to keep. In dating after 60, most men aren't looking for drama or excitement. They've had that. What they crave now is something quieter. A woman who brings steadiness to the table. Not perfection, but presence. Not control, but clarity. A woman with emotional maturity doesn't react to every trigger. She doesn't lash out, shut down, or spiral into blame. Instead, she pauses. She reflects. She chooses how to respond, not to win, but to understand. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And in love, there is no greater strength than the ability to feel deeply without losing yourself in the feeling." This kind of emotional grounding becomes the foundation of healthy relationships. It tells a man that no matter what storms may come, you're not here to add fuel to the fire. You're here to build warmth, not more flames. So many of us, especially as women over 60, have been called too emotional at some point in our lives. But I want to offer another truth. Your emotions are not a flaw. Your depth is not a weakness. The difference lies in whether you've learned to hold your emotions or whether they still hold you. Because when a man feels that you can stay present even when things get hard, that he doesn't have to fear your reaction or walk on eggshells, he opens up in a way that's rare. He lets you see him. And from that, a true connection is born. Let me ask you something. Have you ever made the conscious choice to stay calm in a moment that could have turned volatile? How did that shape the outcome or the relationship? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. You never know who might be encouraged by what you share. Now, emotional calm is powerful. But when you combine it with a clear sense of direction in life, that's when everything begins to shift. Let's talk about that next. Thing number 3, clear life vision. Emily was 58 when she told me this story. She'd spent most of her adult life shaping herself around the men she loved. If they loved hiking, she hiked. If they wanted to move cities, she packed the boxes. If they pulled away, she worked even harder to hold things together. But after her second divorce, something shifted. She picked up an old sketchbook she hadn't opened in years. She started painting again. She began spending weekends in nature, traveling solo, and teaching a local art class, not because someone else wanted her to, but because it lit her up inside. That's when she met Daniel, a kind, thoughtful man 10 years her senior. And what drew him to her wasn't her looks, her cooking, or how available she was. It was the way her life felt full. He once told her, "You don't need me to give your life meaning. You already have it." That is the quiet strength of a woman with clear vision for her life. She doesn't abandon her world for romance. She lives her purpose fully, and love fits into it, not overpowers it. In dating after 60, many women feel tempted to shrink their lives to make room for someone else, to cancel plans, to silence passions, to wait by the phone. But that's not what the right man is looking for. A man who has done his inner work doesn't want a shadow. He wants a partner. Women over 60 with clear direction, whether it's personal goals, community involvement, a spiritual path, or a late-in-life dream, naturally exude depth. Their value doesn't hinge on whether a man shows up or stays. Their lives are rooted in something much deeper. There's a quote I once heard: "Fall in love with your life, and the right person will fall in love with that version of you." I've seen that come true more than once. A woman who knows who she is and where she's going doesn't pull a man into her orbit through neediness. She attracts him with energy, with curiosity, with movement, because she is already moving forward and the right man simply wants to walk beside her. This isn't about being independent to the point of isolation. It's about being alive in your own story. A story that continues with or without romance, but welcomes it with joy when it arrives. And now let's talk about something just as important. Because even when your vision is clear and your purpose strong, there's one more thing that shapes how a man sees you, and it lives in how you see him, not above you, but beside you. Thing number 4, equal status. Not long ago, many women were taught to admire a man so deeply that they placed him just above themselves, as if love required hierarchy, as if the more we elevated him, the more valuable we became. But true connection isn't built that way. Not in healthy relationships, not in lasting ones, and certainly not in love after 60. A woman who sees herself as equal in worth, equal in humanity, and equal in the relationship dynamic changes everything. She doesn't idolize a man. She doesn't minimize herself to make him feel bigger. She meets him eye to eye, heart to heart, step for step. In senior dating, this matters more than ever, because many men have grown tired of performance, of expectations, of being needed for validation. What they crave is a partner who sees them not as a savior, not as a prize, but as a person. The woman who walks beside him, not behind him. The one who brings her own perspective to the table, who challenges him kindly and honors her own needs as much as his. That's the woman who leaves an imprint. There's a quote from Rumi that says, "The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door opens. And often, that door leads to love that doesn't demand power games or sacrifice. It leads to mutuality. When you no longer approach love with the idea that someone is above you, you give the relationship room to grow. Respect flows both ways. You don't try to impress him, you invite him to see the real you. And that's the energy that makes a man want to stay. Not because you need him, but because you value yourself enough to choose someone who sees your light clearly. So let me ask you something. Has there ever been a time in your life when you caught yourself placing someone else above you in a relationship? What helped you shift out of that pattern? If you're open to it, share it in the comments. There's power in reflection, and your experience might resonate with another woman watching this right now. Because in the end, equality isn't about being the same. It's about standing tall in who you are and choosing love that respects your height. There is still one more quality that speaks louder than words. It reveals itself in the way a woman moves through her own world, with energy, curiosity, and a light that's entirely her own. Thing number 5. Cultivates her own exciting life. He once told me, "I never felt like I had to entertain her. She already had this spark in her, like life itself kept her fascinated. I just wanted to be near it." He was talking about Helen, a 67-year-old woman who lived her life like it was an adventure, even in the quiet moments. She gardened with passion, hosted monthly book circles, took dance classes just because they made her laugh, and still wrote poetry on Sunday mornings with coffee and jazz playing in the background. Her days weren't packed with noise, but they were alive. That's the kind of presence that stays with a man, not because she needed him to complete her, but because she was already whole, curious, and lit from within. In dating after 60, there's often this belief that life should slow down, that we've done what we needed to do, and now it's time to rest, to retreat, to accept stillness. But many women over 60 are discovering something different. This chapter is not a winding down, but a coming alive in a softer, deeper, more personal way. A woman who cultivates her own exciting life doesn't wait for a relationship to give her meaning. She creates meaning. And that makes her endlessly attractive. You don't have to be climbing mountains or launching businesses to embody this energy. Sometimes it's as simple as exploring a new hobby, learning a second language, or reconnecting with something you loved decades ago. The excitement isn't about being impressive. It's about being engaged with life, with yourself, with the present. There's a quote that says, "She remembered who she was, and the game changed." That's what happens when a woman reclaims her joy, not as a performance, but as a quiet return to herself. When a man meets a woman who is deeply connected to her own interests, he feels something shift. He realizes that her world doesn't revolve around him, and instead of pulling away, he's drawn in, because it takes the pressure off, because he sees her not as a burden or expectation, but as someone who can stand in her own joy and still welcome him in. This is what high-value men look for in love after 60. A partner with her own rhythm, her own pace, her own light. A woman who doesn't dim herself for anyone and doesn't need to shine on demand. She simply lives fully, and in doing so, reminds him to do the same. And that, more than anything, is what makes love last. Not constant effort, not dramatic romance, but the quiet beauty of two lives already full, choosing every day to meet in the middle. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, because conversations like these aren't about fixing ourselves. They're about remembering who we are. Love after 60 isn't about starting over. It's about starting from wisdom, from quiet strength, from a deeper knowing of what truly matters. Many women over 60 still carry scars from relationships that made them feel small, invisible, or not enough. But the truth is, your worth was never tied to how someone else treated you. It lives in how you see yourself, how you move, speak, choose, and rise. The 5 quiet traits we've explored today aren't tricks or tactics. They're reflections of a woman who has come home to herself. A high-value woman, not because of what she does, but because of how she holds her heart. And when a man sees that, truly sees it, he knows. She is not someone he can replace. She is someone he chooses with his whole being. If love finds you again, let it meet the real you. Not the version trying to be chosen, but the one who has already chosen herself. And if love doesn't show up when you expect, know this: you are still whole, still worthy, still radiant in the life you've built with your own 2 hands. That is the beauty of this season. We are not chasing time, we are embracing it. If this video gave you some clarity or comfort, feel free to hit like, share it with someone else navigating this journey after 60, and subscribe to Wise Life After 60 for more thoughtful insights on aging, living fully, and finding peace within. Stay kind to yourself. You've come further than you think.